I remember I saw a post from, I think it was Game Logic, where he was lambasting Derek Strickland of Tweaktown and talking about the current market and why Xbox would not leave the console game because it made majority of its own, monies from there. It's one of the, craziest things that you would probably see, how people not having calculated what Xbox is pretty much doing and how they're making their money, will come around and start to talk about how Xbox is going to quit the console business, not realizing that that is literally a bankruptable move. If Xbox were to, quit the console business, what in the world do you think they're going to sit there doing? The console business is pretty much what a huge chunk of their funds and their resources are hinged on. It's actually quite interesting that anybody would actually think that this is something that they're going to abandon. Now, can they transform what it looks like? Of course. There's nothing wrong with that. Will they transform what it looks like? Of course. It's what they're doing. But to go ahead and think that somewhere, somehow, that anybody who's talking about this and why they won't leave because it's what makes them money, come on. That's insane thinking that that's the way. In this particular tweet, you can see Game Logic and user Brap go back and forth and try to mock the idea that the console game is basically something that's going on the back burner. And for some reason, they made fun of this thing where they said, because my kid plays Roblox and blah, 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 then they're basically not going to go ahead and, move to console. I made a video about it, okay? You know what? I think that's a little bit of a, let me just focus on the data, and they can do the drama. IGN 2025 gaming trends. Matt Piscatella posted this and said in here, from this, 93% of Gen Alpha prefer playing on mobile. Millennials and Gen X tend to be loyal to platforms or genres. Hey, unks of gaming, all of us. Me and you all guys. Because a lot of us, the demographics of those who watch this YouTube channel, and even YouTube channels that discuss gaming at this level, we're much older. And I said to y'all that of all the content creators that are actually in this space, I thought Sigs and Serial was the youngest, and he confirmed that to me. Shout out to you, sir. He confirmed that to me in the comment section. He's a 27-year-old gentleman. And so I told y'all that those of us that are basically in that millennial category, right, we are talking a whole different game. The Gen Z cats, the reason many of them actually don't care much for consoles is because when they were growing up and coming up, they were watching Ninja stream Fortnite. And Ninja streamed Fortnite on his really high-end PC builds. So you got to think about this. A lot of the people that they watched coming up were not attached to any console. They were attached to their favorite platform, which was Fortnite and whatever other games. So Matt Piscatella says this. Now, the younger generations tend to be more loyal to specific experiences. They no longer identify as gamers. They identify as players of a specific game. This is interesting because GamesIndustry.biz covers this. The initial 2025 gaming trend report focuses on 6 key areas, including mobile gaming, user-generated content, and the trend for nostalgia. Very interesting. This is weird because mobile gaming, according to this, is king. When people were lambasting Xbox for going to the market with Asus to go do a handheld, I looked and said, this has got to be the biggest joke on the internet, because it is a joke. The PlayStation punditry is a joke. They like to lie and pretend as if the data and the evidence for moves that Xbox is making first don't exist. But then when PlayStation says they're going to make a similar move, they start to bow down and worship it. See the way they all started bowing down and worshiping when Mark Cerny and Jack Hune showed up on the AMD conversation. Whereas when Sarah Bond and Lisa Su and Aaron Greenberg, I think that's his name, the guy with the beard at Xbox or so. I don't know these Xbox guys except Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer. Those are the only two that I know. I think Eric Greenberg is his name. When they were talking about all these things and pointing out the AMD technology behind this, these people started to make fun of Xbox. You all are jokes. And I've said this. I'm going to start pointing out that it's either you guys are lying to your communities or you're not being honest to point out the data. Even now, y'all are trying to use the fact that many gamers don't buy games as an argument against Game Pass, when that is an argument against exclusives, and Game Pass has been growing through that market condition to show that you all are still lying. And this is the problem you're going to have in the gaming industry. where people come out and just basically foment their own feelings and somehow think that they can pretty much run around what's real. Mobile gaming has always been king too. That's another thing. Like, it's always been the top of the notch in terms of this particular context, right? When it comes to mobile, console, PC hardware, mobile was pretty much ruling the entire thing. Matthew Ball's data sets. Do y'all remember when Matthew Ball did the, Matthew Ball, where is he? The presentation of the state of video gaming in 2025. Do y'all remember this 200 slide issue that he did? If you guys don't remember, go back and watch it and see all of the things that are actually interacting against gaming. This is what people like these folk that I introduced you to the video to are ignoring to try to mock people who are pointing to data. You cannot do that. Xbox understands this reality and is basically hedging itself. Yet all of you are saying they need to leave console gaming, while that's it's a pivotal point of their business before this new wave overtakes everything. So they're not going to leave billions of dollars to go chase another few $1 billion 10 years. No, they're going to pivot off of the billions of dollars that they get today to go and chase on those market trends that are coming down the road, of which these market trends of what gamers prefer to play are what we're seeing. The prominence of mobile among young players probably won't be a huge surprise to anyone reading this. This is 93% of Gen Alpha prefer playing on mobile, according to IGN's segmentation study. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my demographics. This is the demographics that I've served for the last decade or more. Actually more in terms of my profession. And I've been telling y'all that this particular demographic could not be bothered with this stupid console war. In fact, the people who are actually out here on this commentary and punditry, their children fall into this category and age group. So within their homes, they see these trends themselves, yet they come out on the microphones and want to tell you otherwise. That's where I see the problem, because it's basically an ignoring of a reality and a data-driven, established paradigm in front of you to come and tell somebody otherwise. To me, I think it's not fair. I don't think it's fair. It says, 90% of Gen Alpha prefer playing on mobile, according to IGN segmentation study, but preference for mobile is actually growing for millennials too, with 32% calling it their preferred device. I didn't even see this one. I just thought we millennials are kind of, set in our ways, but we're not there yet. We're still in that age group where we're still flexible. The moment we hit boomer category, it's over. You know what I mean? Like, the moment we hit that place where, Gen X is reaching right now, Gen X is still a little set in their ways. They've basically, according to them, charted their own course, because boomers were their parents and, their grandparents were much more of the old school generation, and they call themselves a silent generation and such, which I do have a lot of respect for the Gen Xers. I know they're basically very quiet, but believe you me, they should never be slept on. So calling their preferred device. The study also makes assertion that Fortnite has been a key factor in the Nintendo Switch's recent success, especially as the game hadn't been available on the App Store since August 2020. That changed recently, of course, as a result of Epic versus Apple fallout. Davidson says an estimated 81 million people have played Fortnite on Switch, a number that eclipses the sales of Mario Kart Deluxe at 68 million copies sold. You see, as much as we talked about Nintendo's games, what we didn't necessarily also point out at the time, or realize in many cases, was that this was also a big part of their ecosystem. Nintendo, and all of you listen to me that were telling me about Nintendo months ago when I was telling you, I've noticed that a lot of people are starting to see the trends. Nintendo's hold on its ecosystem is going to eventually soften the moment these live service games make their way in. One of the reasons Nintendo is also artificially withholding development kits, which is their development kits to withhold, is because they are actually adamant about this market and seeing where the trends are going. The moment they open up their ecosystem with the Switch 2, like PlayStation, it's over. And the longer they wait, they also deter themselves, because people are going to look and say, if I can't carry these experiences with me, I'm going to go get something else that allows for me to carry these experiences. Xbox is on time. This is one of the times that I can say, even though many people may lambast Xbox for being too early on something, I don't know what Xbox's history is. I couldn't be bothered, but they are dead on schedule with coming into this market to try to take a share of it. Steam, Valve, they were early. They were right in front of it. Everybody else that follows Steam and Valve, man, they really rode the wave just right. Because they came out with devices, and you could see those devices. There was a lot of adamance with them. Like, oh, man, this is kind of weird. Is adamance a word? Hold on, guys. Oh, look. Resoluteness, the meaning of the word adamant. Firmness or determination. Huh? I guess I'm using the opposite word. Reservation is what I should have used. Refusing to be persuaded. Yeah, there was a lot of reservation about it. People weren't so sure. I don't know why I said adamant. I was like, what? Good thing my brain called me out there. Davidson has an estimated MPM before night. It's also why, despite the Switch 2's massive launch success, mobile will remain a threat to Nintendo. Nintendo is going to be succumbing to mobile. I done told y'all that Nintendo they have to hedge their bets. They have to be ready. They really have to be ready. As these phones become more and more advanced and more ingrained into people's lives. Dude, one of the craziest things that we did, and many schools had been doing, is we actually had these kids take their phones and lock them in a Faraday cage on their way to school. There's schools that have been doing that across the country. And man, the moment we did that, it changed the dynamic. Now, yes, youngins are still youngins, and they did it all through, different levels of the schools of all ages. Now they talk to each other. You know what I mean? They talk to each other now. But man, it also has unlocked a whole different paradigm where on their, computers, their school devices, they want to basically try ways to go play these games online. Because they can't just get on their phones and do that. So when they get back on their phones, they're jumping right into their ecosystems. Nintendo understands this. Because now they have an entirely capable gaming device that we almost have to pry out their hands. Unreal Editor for Fortnite has resulted in almost 200,000 games being made by creators within the Fortnite ecosystem. This figure is dwarfed by the numbers in Roblox, which is home to around 40 million user-made experiences. Guys, every single one of you that's telling me about consoles, man, your arguments are going to be cooked within half a decade. If PlayStation has not yet positioned itself to take on this mobile landscape by the next 5 years, they will be way behind. Their pillars are already dated and behind the competition, according to what we saw in their Insomniac leaks. But anybody who has not paid attention and is not, now starting to understand why PlayStation's next console is going to be handheld based, I hope you see what's going on. I said it before. For some reason, I was like, it seems like handhelds are coming back. Well, everybody caught on and saw Nintendo selling all this amount of money. Why? The traditional sit down in one place paradigm is good. It made enough money, but bro, we want to attach ourselves to you like your phone. So just instead of just taking a phone case, why didn't you just take a small backpack, put your phone and our thing in there with you? That's what these companies are trying to do. If you don't see it yet and you still think that the console traditionalist methodology is going to be the major driver, which it's not been for many years, but the companies never really paid attention to actually attach themselves into mobile quickly. But now that Xbox don't bought Activision Blizzard King and is now sitting in mobile, you bet they're going to be pursuing that paradigm. And they are with their whole thing. And with the Apple and Epic thing, it's over. Thanks for watching the video. Oh, yeah. And again, Xbox is dead, right? That's what y'all were saying. Y'all about to see what death actually truly looks like. Peace out.